Every small town has its rhythm. The familiar faces, the daily routines, the stories that pass from one generation to the next. Some of these stories are told openly, over cups of tea, but others are spoken in hushed tones behind closed doors. And then, there are stories no one dares to tell in the daylight. This is one of them. In the small, bustling town of Umuaka, life moved at a rhythm everyone knew. The early morning calls of traders, the clanging of blacksmith hammers, the scent of roasted plantain drifting through the streets. And in the middle of it all lived Nkiru, a young woman whose beauty was the talk of the town. She was in her early 20s, with skin that seemed to drink in the sunlight and glow, and eyes so deep they seemed to hide secrets of their own. Men noticed her wherever she went, and not just because of her looks. There was something about her, a confidence that made her seem untouchable. Many young men had asked for her hand in marriage over the years. They came with bright eyes and hopeful smiles, bearing gifts and promises. Chike, the schoolteacher, had even written her a heartfelt letter in neat cursive, saying he would work hard every day to give her the best life possible. Obinna, the carpenter, had built her a wooden jewelry box with her name carved on it. But each time Nkiru turned them down. "They are not rich enough," she would say, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with a hint of scorn. One evening, her father, Pa Namdi, sat with her under the old mango tree in their compound. His voice was soft, but the weight in it was heavy. "Nkiru, my daughter, a good man is better than a rich one. Why not choose one of the fine young men from our town? They will love you, take care of you, and—" "Papa, I have told you before," she interrupted firmly. "I will marry only a wealthy man, one who lives in a city or a big town, not here. I refuse to waste my life in poverty." Her father sighed, running a hand over his graying beard. But her mother, Mama Nkechi, listening from the kitchen, only shook her head and later told her husband, "Let the girl be. Maybe she is meant to bring us out of this suffering. If she marries rich, we will all benefit." And then, as if summoned by her desires, he appeared. It was a rainy Thursday evening when a sleek black car rolled into town, its polished surface glistening under the streetlights. The driver was tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark, tailored suit that clung perfectly to his frame. His name was Jude. He introduced himself as a businessman from Port Harcourt, in town briefly to oversee an investment. His voice was smooth, his manners refined, and his gaze unsettlingly intense. Within days, gifts began to appear at Nkiru's doorstep. Imported perfumes, silk dresses, a gold-plated wristwatch. Jude's courtship was fast, almost urgent. He spoke of the life they could have together. Weekends in luxury hotels, a home filled with servants, trips abroad. Her friends were suspicious. "Do you even know his family?" asked Ngozi one afternoon. "He's private," Nkiru replied, dismissing the concern with a wave. "What matters is that he is rich, and he chose me." The wedding was arranged quickly. To Nkiru's surprise, Jude insisted it be quiet and low-key. There were no elaborate feasts, no music spilling into the streets. Even stranger, none of his supposed relatives were familiar to anyone in town. Later, Nkiru overheard a hired man admit he was paid to stand in as the groom's uncle, but she shrugged it off. After the wedding, Jude took her to a large, solitary house on the edge of town, a place she had never noticed before, though she had lived in Umuaka all her life. The house was beautiful, but unnervingly still. The air inside was always cold, even in the heat of the afternoon. That first night, Nkiru prepared a lavish dinner, but Jude only smiled politely and said, "I'm not hungry." The second night, she woke to find the bed empty. She heard the creak of the front door and saw him walking into the darkness. He returned just before dawn, smelling faintly of earth. The third night, she noticed something that made her heart skip. Jude cast no shadow in the morning light. Fear began to creep into her thoughts, but greed kept her quiet. 1 week into the marriage, her curiosity overcame her. She decided to follow him. At midnight, she slipped out of bed and crept after him into the cool night. He walked silently through narrow streets until they reached the old cemetery at the town's edge. The moon bathed the gravestones in pale silver. Jude stopped before a crumbling headstone and stood motionless. Nkiru's breath caught when she read the inscription, Jude Okoro, 1983 to 2012. He turned to her slowly, his eyes now dark voids. "You wanted a rich husband, Nkiru," he said, his voice deep and hollow, echoing as if from a great distance. "Now you are mine, forever." She stumbled back, her scream tearing through the night, but the air around her seemed to grow heavy and cold. Shadows swirled at her feet, climbing her legs like dark vines. The last thing she saw was Jude's outstretched hand and his lips curling into a chilling smile. By morning, the house on the edge of town was silent. No one saw Nkiru again. The townsfolk whispered about her disappearance, but none dared approach the house. On certain moonlit nights, however, people claim they hear footsteps inside. 2 sets, one light and hurried, the other slow and deliberate, pacing together in the dark. For more captivating stories, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.